And also, I know that there's a lot of people that criticize the way that I cover these different topics, but I also want to say that I've been right about every single thing, and every single outcome I've predicted accurate. So people might get mad about the way that I've said it. Yeah, I have been. And no, you have not? Okay, name one.
Okay, fine. Let's just do it. It's Foodshops. I feel like back in the day, I enjoyed watching Asmongold a lot more when he was demanding people to show their amount in World of Warcraft.
Please, don't let us give this to Asmongold. But alas, there was none. And I got this mount that day.
Hell, even Asmongold's social commentary was great. It was nice finding refreshing middle-of-the-road takes in lieu of the cringe progressive political takes at that point in time. But I feel as though mine fell off take-wise, and I'm here to talk about it. Sifting through Asmongold videos to find his actual opinions is like trying to find a good Rev Says Desu slot video that doesn't make you feel as though you just wasted your time. You can only say, yup, there it is, true, there you go, and based so many times as padding dialogue for video reactions, but at least back in the day, he gave me takes I could actually agree with. He totally has the freedom to explore politics on his stream, but if a very large streamer does cover it, I expect a bit more out of them. And so, where there's politics, there is Asmongold falling off. However, before I dive into this particular video, we need to talk about why streamer accountability matters as a topic. Yes, I do agree that streamers should have more freedom in how they conduct themselves. I always cringed at all the leftist breadtubers saying that streamers should be less edgy and be less harmful to transgender or black people. It really isn't a big deal to me. However, once you dive into topics like USAID, even if you disagree with the organization, you need to be able to back up your opinions. If it's not a data-dependent piece of information, then I would at least expect you to give a more thoughtful and nuanced take. The reason why this is important is because misinformation is one of the biggest problems on the internet. When platforms are not used responsibly, it isn't just about spreading falsehoods, it's the trouble in telling the true facts from the fake ones. When opinions are not given enough attention effort-wise, especially when you have a larger platform, it also reflects in other people how they think about an issue. Any issue, with the muddling between true and false. Now any fact and lie are indistinguishable from each other, and there exists no truths anymore. Any kind of information could be discounted, and any piece of lie can be accepted. With this laid out, it's time to talk about this video. On February 17th, 2025, Asmongold published a video called "You Don't Hate the Media Enough." Outside of even title bait, the contents of the video itself also has problems. Let's dive right into it.
With a team that clears landmines and leftover explosives, but a freeze in U.S. foreign aid funding around the world could seriously upend progress.
Yeah, after Vietnam.
Bullets and landmines left over from years of brutal civil strife and a lot from U.S. bombing campaigns during the Vietnam War.
Projects everywhere will depend on other countries to fill that funding gap, including China.
Oh no, China might have to spend their money on humanitarian aid on the continent that they share. How dare we expect them to contribute? We better immediately resume sending billions of dollars to minesweeping and underwater basket weaving, just so the Chinese can continue focusing on bolstering their navy. It's almost like these newscasters don't even listen to themselves, or even proofread what they're writing, as a caption over this clip is U.S. aid freeze.
First, Asmongold's eyebrows do more commentary than him. Asmongold begins by watching a right-wing guy named DecoyVoice. Not to harp on somebody other than Asmongold, but his opinions are straight up trash. The objectively correct opinion here is that the US needs to clean up their explosives on countries that they interfered with in the past. It's like clogging your friend's toilet after going to their house and leaving without telling them. Regardless, Asmongold seems to watch this guy a lot and makes goofy faces. It's okay to watch him, but it's also responsible for him to counter some opinions he says as well, and to provide devil's advocate when necessary. Instead, Asmongold will almost always agree with him and platform him. Platforming somebody you agree with is fine, but when their opinions are bad, it's not fine, especially if you can't play devil's advocate for the other side.
Here's the issue, right, is that in a lot of cases, like probably some of this is our fault for sure. But the issue is like kind of what I was saying just like actually a little bit ago, where like you can't expect a bunch of people to let me think of a way to say this. It's 100% our fault, right? Yeah, well, let's say it is. But like let's say you're 30, like you're 34, like I'm 34. Do I want to have the generational accountability for something that I wasn't even alive during, that all my tax dollars have to go towards? Like, I'm sorry, but like, no, not really, right?
Asmongold says here that some of it is the United States' fault, but his generation can't be blamed for something that happened before their birth. This is, to me, a very immature take on geopolitics. A country isn't just its citizens, but the power structure in place, territory, and relations it has with the rest of the world. You can't just be an American citizen and benefit from being a citizen of the United States, but not also acknowledge the government is responsible for war crimes before you were born. I'm not saying that all white people in the United States should kneel before their black brethren and start kissing their feet for slavery, but rather there is a good gray zone where if something is obviously the government's fault, then it should be atoned for. It's basically having your cake and eating it too. We all universally agree it's a good thing that Germans learn about the Holocaust, but we all also kind of agree that Germans shame themselves a bit too much for stuff they aren't responsible for, especially if modern-day Germans are born after World War II. It's almost as if there's a good middle zone for compromise. All this learning about the Holocaust no doubt in the end causes more taxpayer money from the country, but we all recognize it's necessary. But obviously we won't say that Germans should start kneeling before Jewish people and kissing their feet either. Foreign relations are complicated, and I don't believe that Asmongold's take is good at all, nor is it nuanced enough for me to warrant, considering on a serious level.
There were people from these countries that didn't even know that it was happening. And I feel like that was probably more telling than anything, that if the entire intent of this is to create soft power in these countries, but the people that are in the countries don't even know that it's happening, what are the odds that this money just isn't really making itself, it's just really not making its way over to that group of people?
Asmongold says here that people from other countries don't even know USAID is happening. But you are really telling me that random-ass civilians who are busy trying to make a living and supporting their family are going to pay attention to USAID? Don't you think that USAID is literally built with the intent to specifically deal with foreign governments? Why in the world would USAID show itself to citizens? What are they going to do? Appear as Christian missionaries and feed poor African children? Or rather, deal with third world governments and give them enough aid to combat sicknesses in their country?
And it damaged the trust that they had in the government in a way that is, I think, irreparable in the next, 10 or 20 years. And the media.
Objection.
Yeah.
We have a Chinese-style state-sponsored media. As interesting.
I feel the same way about that, by the way.
I'm not denying that the modern media has issues. It's not a perfect system by any means. I remember seeing an article implying Israel was using white phosphorus on civilian populations alongside the Lebanon border. That doesn't seem to be proven. And not only that, it seems to be just used for smokescreen, because it was just what Israel had at the time. So trust me, I know. However, disregard for the media en masse is another immature take. The real question is, if you don't trust the media, then who do you trust? Is it Ben Shapiro? Is it Project Veritas? Is it Trump? Sam Hyde? And if so, then who is exactly holding these people accountable, and who exactly is fact-checking them? How do you know if anything is true? Yes, large media sources tend to align with one another opinion-wise, but how do you know if that is the case because the fact is true, or is it because it's all controlled? Journalistic integrity exists. It's hard for media to actually lie openly and get away with it. Just look at Fox News and the Dominion voting machine case. There was evidence that Fox openly knew that this was a lie, but still ran with spreading lies about the voting machines. They did this in order to compete with OAN because they were losing their audience to them. While OAN is not beholden to larger media journalistic integrity, Fox News is. Furthermore, Fox News, widely considered a news source with a right-wing slant, has the highest ratings and has the highest viewership in the country, so implying that all the networks are connected is ultimately flawed as well, and it doesn't make sense. So, What exactly is Asmongold's argument for this?
This is the same thing I said about games media on a smaller scale. If I had read an article from any games publication, I could have assumed it was from any games publication.
Well, yeah, okay.
Blame people for thinking that the government is cooperating with the media and the media is operating as a fourth branch of government when it seems like they're covering up lies for the previous government. And I think the debate was the moment that people realized that. And when that was made clear, you saw everybody basically stop trusting the media.
This is not actually true that much. Vice President Kamala Harris was made to answer for Biden's terrible debate performance, in which she did sweep and cope, but that's expected because Biden is pretty much her boss. However, even MSNBC news hosts were blasting Biden's performance and saying it was one of the worst debate performances they've ever seen.
Who has operated at the highest levels of the Democratic Party and still has many, many contacts there and has been talking to people for us so we can find out what's happening in those circles.
Well, I think consistent with your reaction, Rachel, and others on the panel, it's kind of a DEFCON 1 moment. I do think Lawrence and Chris give a very important caveat. Listen, I've been deeply involved in presidential campaign debates. Some went well, some didn't go well. The only thing that matters, and you won't really know for 3 or 4 days, is how the voters that will decide this election will react. We had a really bad first debate. Race tightened, but we're okay. Biden is behind narrowly right now. Really pains me to say this. They're 3 years apart. They seemed about 30 years apart tonight. And I think that's going to be the thing that voters really wrestle with coming out of this.
MSNBC, you know, the news media company that supposedly is the most left-leaning out of all the big media sources. Asmongold is ultimately fine to do whatever he wants. And I don't think he should be deplatformed. But he does deserve a lot of the criticism he is getting, factually wise at least. Things that are false should be corrected. Things that are true should be encouraged. And ultimately, Asmongold peddles too many falsehoods and implies too many bad narratives. Anyhow, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Otherwise, I will see you next time.